So today's guest is a good friend Mark Brockbank, who's the head coach and founder of Raptor Martial Arts. So thanks for coming on Belfast, Wales. It's good to actually get back doing face-to-face chats.
Yep.
Mark, just for anyone who doesn't know who you are, start off, you went into university, and I think you did some work, and then you went on into teaching. So you want to start from the beginning?
Beginning from the martial arts journey, or just beginning from
Just from yourself really?
Yeah. Well, my whole journey really started way back with an after school judo club. Dr. Ian Drysdale in Wellington College, he started the judo club, and me and my friend Jonathan Maynard, we went along training that, and I just absolutely loved it. And from that I progressed on to jiu-jitsu and trained through that for many years, and then I became an instructor. I kind of gave me the confidence to really get up in front of crowds and talk to people and really help my ability to do that and work with people in the general public and stuff. So I went off to university, continued to coach and train and so on, and eventually came out of university with a degree in molecular biology and did a bit of scientific research for that. Whilst deciding to do a master's or PhD, I also applied for a teaching qualification. Got accepted and thought, well, it's only 36 weeks, so I'll go and do it. Loved it, and ended up going into education. Ended up specialising in special needs. In school I was diagnosed with very severe dyslexia. Always struggled with it, still do. And I kind of thought, well, I had a bit of a unique perspective on that, coming from having been on both sides of the fence, so to speak. So went into education, worked in special education for a while, and in amongst all that, sort of martial arts had been simmering about, and well, I'd say simmering, it was still a very serious pursuit of mine. It was still what I did to keep myself sane and so on. And I suppose as the years have gone on, my involvement in martial arts has just become more serious, and I've now just recently left teaching to sort of pursue a career now in martial arts.
So you were working basically, because I remember met you a few years ago, you were training over in Belfast, so you were working full time as a teacher and then doing martial arts on the side. What was it? What made you make that decision to leave what people would call a safe job, a sure thing, to go into something that's not more risky?
Yeah. Well, I was at a fairly senior position in education, senior member of staff, managed quite a large department as well, and I was always studying. I was always doing part-time study, and I was studying for a part-time doctorate in education. Needed a bit of money to pay. I wasn't making enough money teaching and having a family, and so I thought, well, I'll start a martial arts club. I'll bring an extra few quid in. So I started a club, and it took off. And I thought, okay, well, one night's not enough. I need 2 nights. 2 nights turned into 3, and 3 turned into 4 different times a week, and it just wasn't sustainable. I just couldn't keep all the balls in the air. So I resigned my senior post in school, and didn't really get much extra time out of that. I just thought, you know what, maybe it's time. I was actually flying home from a holiday. Week's holiday in Spain. I was flying home on the plane, and I thought, my heart's not in it anymore. Working with those children, and I thought, well, I suppose I got kind of a bit selfish and thought, it's time that I've paid the dues. I want to do something for me now. And I decided then I would take a career break, and took the career break. And to be honest, I think with the studying and with teaching and with the responsibilities of teaching and then running my class, looking back on now, my mental health has suffered a good bit, if I'm honest. And I thought, no, I need to take some time for myself. and I did. And during that time, I decided, so I came up with the idea of, well, I can combine both areas. I can combine my experience in education and I can combine my experience in martial arts. And so the concept of the layer over a number of years sort of grew. I had an idea of approaching local schools and coming into local schools to deliver seminars and classes and so on for them. Schools didn't really seem to like the idea of that, and so I've decided, well, maybe I need to build my own centre. So the idea of the layer came, and in Donald here we've got good catchment area, there's good schools around here, so the idea is I can combine with my experience in teaching by helping in the afternoons with sort of school homework clubs and extracurricular support. We're special needs trained as well, so delivering any special needs support that we need in the afternoon. Or of martial arts, and then mum and dad come and pick them up at 6, and that's really what we're doing. So I think I'm very fortunate that I have two skill sets that marry very well together. And
so you were basically, when you were obviously working full time as a teacher, your classes, your martial art classes were pretty much geared up for teaching adults. And then obviously once you left that you took a career break and left that full time job, you then start looking at bringing in your ability to teach kids in with that as well. Then is that right? How did your club's called Raptor? How did that come about? What inspired you for that name?
Well, Raptor, we're predominantly a Jeet Kune Do club. So that's our main philosophy, or our main guiding light really is Jeet Kune Do. And I fell into Jeet Kune Do through the organisations I was training with. So many years ago I trained under David Tony, and he was very forward thinking at the time. Being a traditional martial artist and being traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, he put a few noses out of joint by bringing over Guru Bob Ring. And who you've interviewed both.
David has been on.
So it's funny how things worked out. So he brought Guru Bob over, and I was looking at the interviews and how David perceived Bob, and it was exactly the same. My initial perceptions of him. See, I was young. I was just got a black belt. I was cocky, arrogant. I'm standing there in my beautiful crisp white gi and my fancy black belt, and I was the bee's knees, and Guru hobbled onto the mat with his dirty t-shirt, and you've heard the story already. And I thought, and I was arrogant, and I said, how is that cripple going to teach me? And I did, and he spent 3 hours showing me how, not what I was doing was wrong, but how I could make it so much better. And I decided that day that I would train with Bob. So that was really me on the Jeet Kune Do route. And what I learned from Bob, I suppose, was that everything needs to be realistic. So that's what the R stands for. When you're engaged in combat, you have to be assertive. So you cannot be on your opponent's terms because you're going to lose. So that's the A. Bob is incredibly precise. I mean, the man is surgical in his movement. So that's where the P comes from. So Raptor really is an acronym. So realistic, assertive, precise. Everything has to be targeted as well. So there's a specific target you are going for every single time. And the R is just response. So we in Raptor try to instill in our students and myself as instructors that everything has to be realistic, assertive, targeted and precise, and that's how we respond to anything that comes at us. So that philosophy really runs through all the arts that we teach, and as is the concepts of Jeet Kune Do and 4D. So trained with Bob for many years, and we're now Raptor is now recognised as an affiliate 4D combat club, the only one I think in Ireland at the minute, which we're hoping to change. We hope other groups come on board under Guru Bob, and we get a bit of a 4D community going on over here, which would be fantastic.
Going back to we got obviously you decided then you took a career break and you ran your martial arts business full time. You then now obviously you said the idea of building a facility was in the back of your mind for a long while. You start building that. When did that?
That whole process started pretty much over a year ago.
Year ago.
Yeah.
If you could describe that, and then obviously this is the 10th of October. Everyone knows what's happened in 2020.
Yeah.
What was that like? The start a process of building something, and then literally a pandemic comes in.
Yeah. It's incredibly scary because you cash all your chips in, because with something like this, you're either in or you're not. So you're either all in or you're not. And what we're doing in Raptor is somewhat different from other gyms. Other gyms can get away with renting a space, throwing some mats down, putting some plasterboard up for changing rooms, and as long as it meets building control, they can get away with it. We're having to build a facility where parents are prepared to leave their children with us for 4 or 5 hours a day, potentially. So it has to be clean, it has to be bright, it has to look professional, so it's a lot of investment. So that itself is incredibly scary. And you go through periods of doubt, you go through periods of, you have a lot of sleepless nights, because some nights you wake up and you're incredibly excited and you're like a kid in a candy store, and that's a sleepless night. And other nights you wake up going, what are you doing? This is incredibly stupid. What if nobody wants to come? What if it's a stupid idea? Because every idea you have, you think is a great idea.
Yeah.
And it's only until it's tested and it's pressure tested that you find out, is it going to fly? But you then have to learn to have confidence in yourself, and you have to learn to believe in yourself. And it's like what Bruce Lee said, wanting is not enough, you have to do.
Yeah.
I've always wanted my own centre, so there's no point wanting it, I have to go and get it. So that's what we're doing. And then the pandemic hit, and the fear comes back again, and you go, oh my goodness, now we've got financial commitments, we've paid deposits, we've got,
Because you also, I think I was speaking to you throughout all this, you didn't get any, you weren't able to get any help from the government.
We went limited company 2 weeks before lockdown. That came through, so that knocked us out of applying for anything, because the original help from the government didn't include limited companies. And then there was a second round of assistance came out that did help limited companies, but then we weren't limited for long enough, so we weren't getting assistance there either. So we really did slip through the net completely. And having said that, every business person I have spoken to, friends, colleagues, family, every single one of them I talk to have not got any assistance.
Right.
So this figure of 5% the government comes out with, I don't know where they're getting it from, because I haven't met anybody who's got assistance from the government, really, in terms of small businesses. So that was terrifying. But I suppose it's like anything, you have to adapt and overcome. There's been positives in the whole thing, in the sense that I'm a complete technophobe. I hate computers, I hate internet, I hate all of it. I engage in it because I have to. But this has forced me to grow, because I've had to learn Zoom, I've had to learn to do online classes, I've had to learn to coach over online, so we moved everything over to our online platforms. And we were quite successful with that. And we're going to actually continue that from there when we get into it. All the classes will be live streamed.
How much, obviously coming up to the lockdown, which was the 23rd of March, you were running your classes normal, near enough, were you?
So there was about 2 weeks where the announcements came through, and I was coaching over in Bangor, with a club over in Bangor, Aurora, and the atmosphere in the centre was just horrible. And it's just, my gut, I just didn't feel right. I just said to the coaches that night, I said, that's we're done. I don't want to put any kids at risk. I don't want to put any of the membership at risk. I know they have a responsibility to look after themselves, but at the same time, if you're charging them a monthly, because we work on a monthly fee, and you know people are paying monthly, and you hold the class, you kind of put pressure on people to show up. So we just went, no, we're going to make it easy for people. We're going to just shut the doors. It was the right decision, and then a week later the announcement came that lockdown. So I'm glad we jumped early, to be honest.
So when that happened, then obviously things shut down. You then, how quickly did it take you to switch from a physical class where someone walks in, trains with yourself, to online? Did we able to get all the classes online, or?
So initially, what we did, again, being very lucky, we moved everything onto Facebook initially. And on that we set up our own Facebook, Rocker at Home we called it, and we started posting stuff on that. We sort of realised that some of the parents would be pulling their hair out doing homeschooling, so as teachers we offered homeschooling classes, so we were doing literacy classes and numeracy classes and creative classes to kind of help the membership out as well, and we also offered that to NHS workers and key workers, so that kept us really busy. And taking over with that, then we moved on to Zoom. A lot of problems with Zoom to start off with. And to be fair to Zoom, it wasn't really their fault, I don't think. They didn't really anticipate their platform would be
So much
just
in use,
swamped by the whole world all at once. So there's a few glitches, but again, you know, it forces you to grow, and it forces you to learn new skills, and we did that. And there's challenges with it. You have to learn how to. It really tests your knowledge and your craft if you can break it down to the extent that people on the other side of the world, or in this case, in a different room, someone else can see what's happening on screen and understand. So, as a coach, it was a big learning experience for me too, in terms of coaching skills. I was able to get more training with more. I mean, I was training with Tom Lamont nearly every week. I was training with Carl Jackson nearly every week. I was training with Bob and some of the other top 4D guys really regularly, more so than when we're not in lockdown. It's very ironic. So I think there's positives going to come out of it, and I think this whole experience of setting up the lair and lockdown, it's the old story of trying to find the opportunity in adversity. You know, and there's a lot of colleagues in martial arts have just crumbled, people who I wouldn't have expected. Just because they weren't adaptive enough. That's a shame, you know.
But one question I have to ask, and I don't mean to come across cheeky, was there ever a point you thought yourself, I wish I'd stuck with my teaching job?
All the time.
All the time. Right.
All the time. I mean, the doors are ready to open in the next week or so, and I still have those moments. Yeah, you still, you know, I think a lot of us in martial arts suffer from imposter syndrome. A lot of us. I think because it's this endless pursuit, this endless vain pursuit of perfection. We're never satisfied with the skill level we're at. We're always pursuing better skill or more refinement. And I think at some point I have to stop and reflect on the journey, of, you know, how far down the journey we are. Sometimes, yes, it's important to remain humble and to realise that, you know, we're not the Grand Master. But at some point you have to stop and realise and go, well, actually, you know, I'm ready for this. And I suppose a part of me really relishes the challenge of setting up probably one of the most competitive businesses in the worst possible time. A part of me relishes the challenge of that, but other parts of me go, you know what? Why didn't you just keep the job, keep it, just stay safe, you know?
Because you're and you took a career break. You're out now. You've
I've resigned. I'm
resigned,
completely
yeah.
out. Yeah.
How do you? Because that I think that's one thing that anyone watching maybe trying to starting a business, or what kept you going? What kept you from just literally run the white flag up the flagpole and go, right, I'm done, it's over?
It sounds really stupid, but this thing popped up on. I'm not a Facebook fan at all. Being a teacher, I've avoided Facebook like the plague. But now it's a necessity. But this thing popped up on my Facebook feed one day, and I've shared it a few times. And it's this American guy, typical American stuff, you know. He's talking about people who are successful jump. And it just resonated with me, you know, and he says, you know, when you jump, you're going to smash against the cliffs and you're going to get your arms broken and you're going to have some horrible experiences, but eventually your parachute will open and you'll start to soar.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me, and especially the end where he talks about, you know, you can stand on the top of the cliff and you'll be safe and you'll be okay, but you'll never find out at what levels you could have reached if you just played it safe. And that sort of resonated with me, and I thought, well, that's really true. You know, I can stick at my teaching job. I can keep doing that. I can keep teaching a few classes every week. I just wanted to go out, having played my hand, I think, and that's what's kept me going.
Fully go for it and seeing where it all ends up.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, I can go back to teaching.
True.
You know, I'll lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'll just have to maybe work an extra 10 years to pick up the pension. But you know what? At least. But one of my it's actually Bob. I don't know whether you remember, but I was talking to him at the end of one of our instructor courses in London, and he was asking me how things were going, and I was telling him it was tough, this, that, and the other, and he turned to me and he said, "But Mark," he says, the real goal is that you don't ever have to retire. If it works out, you don't ever have to retire if you don't want to, because you're doing what you love." And that kept me going too. That has kept me going. Because that's so true.
Yeah.
And I look at Bob, and I say, he's every time he steps on the mat to coach, he's like a 16-year-old kid. You know, he's smiling, he's laughing, he's just, you know, and it's just because he does what he does. And I want that.
Yeah.
You know, I want that.
Because you see a lot of people who retire and they just literally they've no direction. It's just like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And often not very sad is that their health, the health takes a nosedive.
Yeah.
Because they just go, have no job, have nobody to look after, and just maybe just watch sitting. They're not moving as much as they were, and they watch more TV, and then just their health just takes up time. Whereas if you look at someone like Bob, it's like he's, as you say, he does not, he looks old, but he does not move like an older person. He moves better than some younger people, so he does.
Yeah, totally.
With obviously today's the 10th of October, as I mentioned. You open the Lair, which is the name of the facility, opens this Saturday. Going forward, what all will you be offering? If you're able to touch on the classes and programs.
So the ultimate goal of the Lair will be to produce Jeet Kune Do practitioners. That's our main goal. So Jeet Kune Do is our main art that permeates through everything. And how we sort of break that down from a coaching structure is that we want our students to have competency in all four ranges of combat, and from kicking range to punching range to clinch to ground. So our Jeet Kune Do curriculum, we have our own Jeet Kune Do curriculum, so we'll be offering that, which will have those four ranges covered in the syllabus. We'll also be teaching 4D combat as well, under the banner of Jeet Kune Do, because it is Jeet Kune Do. Uses Jeet Kune Do concepts, so we'll also be offering that. But it's important then, I think, for the students to have the capacity to, if there's any of those ranges that they're not competent in, or they don't feel as competent, they need a bit extra work in, we will then be offering classes in arts that specialise in those ranges. So for the kicking ranges, we teach French savate, French kickboxing, savate, which also has connections to Jeet Kune Do. For our punching and striking ranges, we use elements of Western boxing, but predominantly Panatukan from Filipino martial arts. So we will have separate classes in Kali, which some people call artists and eskrima. That will annoy some people because some people believe they're separate arts, and that's fine. Then we also, the offshoot of that is we also enjoy hitting each other with sticks. So we have separate stick fighting classes as well, which we will filter into the Kali classes, get the armour on and sticks and gloves and bash each other. So we offer that. So that's kicking and punching. For the grappling, we are under Tom Lamont from Jumpstart. So we use their grappling program. Tom's the only instructor certified under Eric Pulse, I believe, in Ireland. So we're under Tom for that. So that covers our clinch and our groundwork under Tom, as the Beat 14 covers clinch work as well. And so those are the classes that we're offering. We'll also be offering women's only classes. We have our own system called Martial Heart, which is really it's a non-combative fitness class using movements from martial arts. So it's not like some of the martial arts based aerobic systems. I'm not mentioning it because of copyright. So it's movements that we would use and exercises we would use to condition fighters, basically, for competitive fighting. So we'll be using those, although it's standalone, you're on your own doing it. So martial art as well. And then we have separate self-defense classes and so on. But being teachers, we overthink everything. So we have separate age group classes. So we have Raptor Hatchlings, which is for 4 to 7, a 7 to 14 class, which is also for families. So what we like to do as well in that Raptor Pack class, which we call it, which is for 7 to 14-year-olds, is that mummy and daddy can jump on the mat and train with their children as well.
So basically parents and kids train together?
Yeah, so mummy can come down and train with a son, or daddy can come down and train with a daughter on the mat together. Or they can split up and the adults can go to one side, and depending on what works for our family. So we have those family classes, and then we have our cadets and seniors classes as well. So that's everything that we'll be covering. So
and you also have isn't it anti-bullying program?
Yes, so again, being teachers, we find that sometimes children go off and they do an anti-bullying program somewhere, and then they bring it into school, but whoever developed the program doesn't understand the Department of Education's policies and school policies and so on, whereas as teachers we do. So we've written an anti-bullying program. It's really an empowerment program really, that trains the children how to respond appropriately to bullying behaviours in school and maintain themselves within this discipline policy, so that they don't themselves fall foul. And then we have Target, which is another program which runs through the children's curriculum, which is a program which basically trains the children to be active participants in the safeguarding process. So what we find in other clubs and in schools and things like that is safeguarding and child protection is something that's done to children. It's not something that children are involved in. So in Raptor, we train the children to be involved in that process. So we train them up in the tactics that an abuser would use. So we don't talk about the gory details of it to the children, but we talk to them in an age-appropriate way, giving them the skills to identify suspect behaviour in adults and how to report it, who they can report it to, and a wee fairy tale story about Red. He's a take on that Red Riding Hood who goes through the forest and so on. And the twist is the wolf in the end is the heroine actually. And it's trying to explain to the children that a wolf is honest about what it is.
Yeah.
You can see it's a wolf and it makes no bones about the fact that it wants to eat you. Whereas the predators that the children are we are training the children to recognise don't look like a wolf.
Yeah.
And it's trying to get that across to them. So that's one of our programs we're really proud of, because it's the only one of its kind in the world that we can find. So that's something. So if any instructors out there are interested in having it in their club, they can get in touch and we can talk them through how to deliver the program. takes a bit of training to deliver it, particularly if you're not a teacher.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can certainly do that.
And obviously at the current, even driving over here to do the interview today, the news is all about with full lies and figures and all this year. What how will, obviously we opening up the gym will not be like maybe if it was last year and normal opening.
Yeah.
How do you plan to adapt going forward? I know obviously we're going forward into uncertain, we don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
How have you been able to kind of prepare for that in a way?
We've been really lucky in that the ethos that we started off from the very beginning, which was certainly with children, was to try and move away from children-only classes and move towards family training. And that has really served us very well because it now allows us that when we open to have family training bubbles. They're all living in a family and they're coming on the mats to train. And so we just need to restrict our numbers coming in and socially distance on the mat. But as a family pod, they can do the full range of the curriculum. They can do grappling, they can do everything as normal, spar, the whole lot, as long as they train within their family bubble. With the Filipino arts, there's a lot of stuff we can be doing there in terms of solo training, stick drills. You and I do some stick drills and socially distance very easily. So again, those arts are easy enough to do. And again, with the Sabat, with it being predominantly a kicking art, I know people will disagree with that. We teach it as predominantly as a kicking art. Again, there's lots of stuff we can do there in terms of solo training, bag work, kicking pads, still socially distance. But again, the thing that really has served us well is the family bubble. Families tend to train with us, which is really good. That's the only real changes we suppose we'll have to implement is our booking in system, more technology. But it's been a real blessing because we signed up to a management company who've been absolutely fabulous, a group called Team Up. And I know they all won't mind me mentioning them. But we can track everything, everybody can book their slot, we know who's arriving down before they come, and then we can just tick them off, and it's all recorded. Yeah. So it all track and trace will be really easy to do through that. And that was something we put in place before lockdown, actually, because I didn't want to sit at the end of every month going through payments, the same as paying me, I can't be bothered. So I paid somebody else to do that. So we've been really lucky that way, that stuff we've already implemented has kind of already future-proofed us, which has been really fortunate. I feel really sorry for my friends in BJJ and wrestling, and I don't know. There's only so many solo drills in a bag you can do. It's.
How do you? Obviously, we don't know how long this whole thing is going to last for. How do you think this will affect the martial arts industry, or even like / fitness industry going forward?
I think it's going to. I hope I take more of an optimistic view on it. That it's going to force innovation. People are going to have to get more innovative in terms of how they train, how they deliver courses, what they offer, and I think that. Where there's innovation, then there's always the problem of how to manage change, and I think people who understand that will be okay. People who don't will suffer, and unfortunately, I think it'll be a bit of a Darwinistic outcome. The fittest will survive, and those who can't adapt will fall by the wayside. What I think we as martial artists, as a community, need to be careful of is the loss of knowledge and the loss of particularly arts that are struggling already because they're more obscure or they're not very well known. We need to look out for those people, and I think we need to help them because we don't want to lose that knowledge. So I think I'm a big advocate when the lair opens. I'm going to invite local instructors from other systems and other arts and other schools. Because I think there's enough I think the pie's big enough for us all to have a slice.
Yeah.
And I think we have to support one another, we have to help each other out, and be more of a community. I think as martial artists, we love to talk about being a community, but the other breath we're stabbing somebody in the back. And I think we need to really knuckle down and practice what we preach, which is acceptance and tolerance of other systems, and be a community, be a proper community that looks out for one another.
Basically, if there's anyone watching this and maybe they've abandoned their idea of starting a business because of the current situation, or they're maybe sitting watching, maybe they're now finding themselves made redundant, they've got extra money and they maybe want to start a business, what basic advice would you give them?
Be prepared to work really hard. It's harder than you think, and I'm very much aware that this bit is probably the easy bit. Getting going is probably the easiest part of it. The hard part is keeping it going, keeping the ship afloat. That's the hard bit. Titanic's the proof of that. The easy bit was done it. So that's the first thing I would caution people of. It's really hard, but it's like having a baby. And what I mean by that is there's no good time to have one. You hold off and you go, oh no, we'll wait. There's never a good time. You just, at one point you just have to go, you know what, I want to do this and I'm going to do it. There's always going to be challenges. I was watching one of my programs I sort of watch on TV, and it's a program about hunting in the wilderness and all that sort of stuff. And the guy says, you have to think like a pessimist, but wear the boots of an optimist. And that's what I would do. I think of, and this is all advice I've been given from other people. I believe strongly, if anybody's setting their own business, learn from everybody else's mistakes. Glean as much information, glean as much knowledge, speak to people you know in the industry who you either a student of or you've worked with, pick their brains and torture the life out of them, because that's what I've done. And every single one of them who has been successful has told me to prepare for the worst case scenario and work backwards.
So prepare for literally in case shutting down or whatever, and then just work back from that. And I suppose that's it. And it's just be prepared to put long hours in and to work really hard. And another thing I've learned, a painful lesson I have learned is I tend to think, I can't do that, I need to learn how to do that. Whereas I've learned, no, what you do is you go and pay somebody who knows how to do that to do it, because they'll do it better. To delegate, basically.
Delegate to other people. Surround yourself. I've been really lucky. I have kind of been handed a fabulous team of coaches and people who work for me and work with me. I was Stephen Pollock, who came on board. He won a free prize draw on Facebook, and he came in for his 3 months training or whatever, and he ended up staying, and he's now one of our coaches. He trained with Tom One for 17 years. He's an amazing asset. So he does most of our grappling. I've got Phil, who's black belt in sambo wrestling. He helps out with the grappling as well, helps out with the kids. I have Sarah, she's a martial arts instructor, taekwondo, she's a school teacher, so she helps me write programs, and she's art trained, so she does all our marketing and our logos and all that stuff. So I have a fabulous team surrounding me. So that's another thing I would say: get good people around you who have the same passion as you, and go for it. You can plan for it all you want. You can, as I said earlier on, there's never a good time. Just do it.
Just go for it, Tim.
Just go for it. Because if you don't, it'll always be yerking at your ankles. It yerked at me for ages, nipped at my ankles for ages, until I went, you know what, I'm just going to do it.
We're if again, obviously we're gonna you're gonna take us down to the
Yeah,
air.
yeah.
We're gonna see it inside. If people want to get in touch, or if they want to sign up, or whatever, how do they get in touch with you, and how do they get in touch with Raptor?
Well, we're online, so we're at raptormartialarts.uk. Now, Raptor's spelled wrong because I'm dyslexic. Yeah, because it's an acronym. Yeah, it's another reason why I went with Raptor, spelling it wrong, because I thought, oh, yeah, dyslexic. So RAPTR martialarts.uk, and then raptormartialarts@gmail.com. But you'll find us on Facebook. You'll find us, So look on Facebook.
I'll include links on the description at the bottom as well.
Yeah.
Mark, thanks so much for
Well,
coming. It was
thank
actually again, it's great being back face to face interviews, and I've again had to adapt to the whole Zoom thing, which was great because the editing is all done for you to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on today,
No, thank
and
you.
good luck for the opening of the lair on Saturday.
Brilliant. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant.